What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his course. My squad with me, T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigo.
Let's do this. Well, welcome once again to another great, exciting, wonderful episode of Into His Courts. Listen, there's so much to talk about, and we got to get into it. We only got a half hour for you to be a part of the number one faith-based sports talk show in all the world. So let's do this. Listen, Proverbs 10:7 in the Amplified says this: the memory of the righteous person is a source of blessing, but the name of the wicked will be forgotten and rot like a corpse. I said that to say about the A part of that scripture, the memory of the righteous person or a good man is a source of blessing. We have to, take our hats off and give honor to a great man, Coach John Chaney, the former head coach of the Temple men's basketball program, just died this week or last week at the age of 89. John Chaney, if you know who this guy is, he was had a raspy voice that would, when you watch him on videos, it would just drown out the gym. For him, he was very demanding of his players. And for him, a sin was a lack of effort. He'd rather deal with you having he could excuse talent, but he would not excuse a lack of effort or an inferior effort where you didn't give all of your all. His voice was always the loudest when he came in. I always remember how he would just, you could hear him snapping off on coaches, the refs, everybody. He didn't discriminate who he was going to give the business to. But he was also at the time a huge advocate for just the whole racial equality, not just on the court, but off the court as well. He was described as sort of a complicated, cranky, quick with a quip. Chaney was had an imposing presence on the court and off the court, a court jester. Again, he coached the Temple Owls. He coached a school in North Philadelphia. And at one time, remember, he was battling for the number one seed at one time with UMass during, I think, in the 80s or the 90s.
Right.
So he's got a grip of hardware. Just an amazing dude. And I always remember when he got into it with John Calipari, was going to beat him up at a press conference.
Right.
At the time, Calipari was coaching UMass, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But now he's with Kentucky, right?
Correct.
But I remember that confrontation. I'm like, oh, it's about to go on down on live TV.
Mm-hmm.
But just
player had to separate.
Dude. And everybody who they interviewed, just talking about him, said how much of just a father figure he was to his players and how much of an advocate he was for the players and just for the Black coaching ranks as well. Just a great dude.
Yeah, he is, may he rest in power. His life and example was really powerful during the coming of age years of, the 80s and 90s, as we were playing sports in junior high and high school during that time, NCAA sports, NCAA basketball was pretty big, and the NCAA tournament, was great. I remember, as a matter of fact, growing up as a youngster, many, cats probably have this same testimony. You had a basketball court in your room. You would get a cardboard cutout. You would tape it to the wall on top of your door. You would get a wire hanger, bend it up in the shape of a rim. You get a potato sack that used to come in this kind of netting mesh-like material. You cut that out, tape it to your rim. That'll be your net. And you would get, either a sock or a basket or balled up paper, put tape around it so it wouldn't just
Right.
disintegrate with
So
usage. And
to keep
right, and you got, you got a whole squad. And for me, I always like numbers. And so I would have stat sheets. I had a whole 64 team NCAA tournament bracket. I had full teams. I was all of the players on the teams, and I kept stats, scoring average, assist average, rebounds per game. So the imagination ran wild. John Chaney played a role in that because he had a guy on his team named Mark Macon, who was a
shaking and
sharpshooter.
baking, no faking making.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Who was, a beast. Atlantic 10, I think, was the conference they were in at that time. Player of the year, maybe 3 or 4 years in a row, maybe all 4 years from his freshman year on through. And Cheney was a fiery guy. And that was in a time where, a lot of often, black fathers get, a bad rap. Fathers in general, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm particularly talking about African American fathers. But in a man's life, a black dude's life, the men in his life, either his uncle, either his father himself, or a father figure, plays a very, very pivotal role because you learn how to be a man from other men. And if you don't have any other men in your life, you miss a part of that. Not saying that strong moms and loving mothers and females can't help shape you, but there are certain things that a man instills into a man because they have similar testosterone DNA, and there's a certain toughness and a grit that you typically get from a man that you can't get from a woman. You know what I'm saying? Not in the same way, I'll say. And so John Chaney was able to instill that in a lot of brothers in Philadelphia. I've been to Philadelphia before. Philadelphia is a tough, hard scramble city. It has its corporate piece, but it also has some, other challenging areas, as most metropolitan areas have, Milwaukee included. So when you have somebody that can help you navigate that, when you have decisions that you can make, either do I take, the streets, or do I go in a better way? Sometimes you need a strong man in your life to say, hey man, look, this is what I need you to do. You haven't given me yet the best that you have to offer. I know it's in there, and I'm here to help you bring it out. Sometimes when you get that from another man, it does something to your personal disposition and psyche to be able to do that. And he was able to parlay the relationship between basketball and life. As a former athlete myself, well, I'm still an athlete, I'm just in semi-retirement from active engagement. um, there is this correlation between, sports and life. You come into situations, hardship, you're being down in the game. Do you give up, or do you continue to give effort because you still believe you have a chance to win? Do you play to win, or do you play not to lose? When the refs aren't on your side and it seems like they're giving favorable calls to the other team, do you sulk and complain and whine after every bad call, or do you suck it up, get your mental game and your intestinal fortitude in line, and you work to overcome both the other team and the ref? Sometimes you need a strong individual there to help get you through those trenches. And John Chaney definitely was that. In his 24 years of coaching between both Cheney State, I believe, and Temple, well, 10 at Cheney State, and then 24 at Temple, he made 17 NCAA tournament appearances. The NCAA tournament is at the end of the year. Teams that have great records, they have a chance to play for the championship. So he was a winner, and he instilled winning into his players. A number of his players went on to have NBA careers as well. And bigger than him teaching them the X's and O's of basketball, he taught them the X's and O's of life. The Bible talks about train up a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. He was training up these young men on being more than just athletes, but being men of substance, of quality, and of character. One quote that was said about him from his successor at Temple back in 2006 from Fran Dunphy was John was more than a Hall of Fame basketball coach. He was a Hall of Famer in life. So to have somebody say that about you, and this is why he was still living, he's a Hall of Famer of life, really speaks to the magnanimity of what he brought to the table, not just as an excellent coach who was a winner, but also as a man who also was able to help shape and mold other men to be the fullness of what their potential was. And he did it with passion and heart, man. And I appreciated him both as a coach and as a man.
Yeah, one of the quotes that John Chaney said himself when he announced his retirement, John Chaney said, "It has never been a job for me, but a passion."
Mm.
When I look back, it was not to be the wins and losses, but the people who influenced me and touched me greatly, and especially the men and the women's coaches and players who have made this university, talking about Temple,
Mm-hmm.
and my time here so special. So he understood, that it ain't about wins and losses. It's about you doing your passion. And
Right.
he was very passionate about what he did. When in the 80s, when I was coming out of high school, when I was in high school in the 80s, and getting ready to get out in the early 80s, there were certain things that we didn't see. BET, was just beginning to come on TV. And so the only thing we saw on TV was Big Ten, Big East, Pac-10, and Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
That was all that was on TV. But we got a chance to see two black men, John Thompson,
Georgetown, yeah.
and we got a chance to see Chaney.
Chaney.
Those two men made me want to go to one of those colleges
Mm-hmm.
because I saw in them, those are fathers. They're not just coaches.
Right.
Those are dads. And, I think it's an old African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. And I think they understood that, and they became a village and created villages for these kids. I remember when Georgetown had won the championship, and there were some players on Georgetown's team that had a speech impediment. I think it was Reggie Williams was his name.
Uh-huh.
And they were interviewing Reggie, and Reggie was stuttering so much that he cussed. He was like, man, and just cussed.
Mm-hmm.
John Thompson grabbed him and kind of ended the interview because he was like, I'm not going to let you struggle in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of coaches these were. So that's two major icons that have passed on that we're going to miss, and not just as a coach, but as men figures to create many other men and help raise other men.
Yeah. I mean, that's
great news.
It is, man. And I think that you bring up a very, very powerful point relative to how John Thompson stepped in and provided cover for Reggie Williams. And Reggie Williams was a great guy. I remember, as a matter of fact, I met him. I had an opportunity to go to the NBA All-Star Weekend back in 2004. And I was at the skills challenge, dunk contest, and three-point shooting contest at the Staples Center. We were there, and afterwards, because it was a group of us, and we were kind of waiting for the rest of our team out in like the hallways after the competition was over, and he was out there. So we had like about a 15, 20-minute conversation. Real cool guy, real down to earth, and he was a star, All-American player at Georgetown while he was there in college. Just a real, real cool guy. But this whole thing, the Bible talks about love covers. It goes on to say a multitude of sin, but love is a covering thing. It shields you from things that could otherwise be harmful. And for African American males, again, there's not always a lot of cover that we have. Nobody's really advocating for us.
Right.
It's, you know what I'm saying? In many respects, we can be considered public enemy number one in the eyes of folks. And through it all, we can't just, use that as a crutch to not achieve. We have to, despite that, continue to operate at peak efficiency and live up to our full potential. But the power of having an advocate for you that can do some covering and advocate on your behalf when you have some areas of deficiency, or you might not be in the best possible position to do or give or demonstrate your best, is a powerful thing. Anecdotally, my son played Little League Baseball from the ages of, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 to about 10, up to like fifth grade or so. And I remember that he was, he didn't have a glove when he was in the cradle and just aspiring to be a baseball star, but he was talented. And had he stuck with it, we've had people tell us that he had a chance to go to the major league just based on what they saw from his athletic prowess at a young age. Anyway, one of the leagues that he was in, there was a traveling all-star team that was affiliated with this particular league. And even at that age, you had quote unquote politics that went on when you had certain people that were favored or whatever. But he got into the competition as being one of the potential players on this traveling all-star team, just based off of that little cat Joshua McMurtry can play. Anyway, when the meeting was held, there was a vote taken, which is usually how these all-star things go. You have a panel, you have a committee, da 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 da. And afterwards, he didn't get picked for this one. He was picked for one of the all-star teams, but not this one. And afterwards, somebody came up to me saying, "Hey man, your son, should have made it. We were surprised when he didn't get picked." And I said, "Oh, really? Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Well, no big deal for us. We're gonna move on. It's cool." In the back of my mind, I'm like, he ain't really a fan of baseball, no way, so he ain't tripping.
Right.
But he said, but there was nobody in the room advocating for him. So when you're not present, or even when you are present, sometimes you need somebody on your behalf
Right.
to take up for you, to make sure that, hey, this joker is deserving of some sort of advantage, blessing, access, something. And I'm just led to say that's what Jesus provides for us. He's an advocate for us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When we aren't being considered to be tip top or considered for favor, or when the accuser of the brethren goes before God saying, "Look at Pastor Skip, look at Pastor Tim, they're deficient in this area. See, look at them, they slipping." Jesus comes and says, "Hold on, shut up. This joker is deserving of whatever the advantage or the blessing or the opportunity is, and I'm here on his behalf to advocate for him." And that's what we need sometimes in our life, an advocate who can, on our behalf, speak well as cover if there's some deficiencies in us that might have been exposed.
Right.
Thank you, John Chaney and John Thompson.
Right. What I love about that, about Jesus is not only is he covering us, but then he vouches for us. He'll go to God and say, "They did, Satan, the accuser of the brother, will accuse us," but Jesus say, "But I died for that.
Man, I covered that.
Right, I got that." But I
Yeah.
love that the Bible says that he left us with the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Advocate,
Comforter, leader into all truth,
the strengthener,
mm-hmm.
all of that. The one called alongside to help us, that's his job. And so us having the Holy Spirit, we always have an advocate. We got one with the Father that's right there, sitting right next to him. And then we got one that lives on the inside of us, that is talking to us and telling us, giving us direction, giving us insight, giving us what we need to go on. So once again, big ups to John Chaney and again,
the late great John Thompson.
John Thompson, man, great people. But listen, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, bro.
Yes, sir.
It's so big, it's in both of our rooms, and we're in separate places.
Yeah, might that be the egg-laying Packers?
You mean the green and the gold?
Yeah, man. Tough loss, last. Tough loss.
Man, there were so many things that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to throw this into your court.
Okay.
And then I'll, I'll come back afterwards.
Well, I will gladly lead off the discussion.
So
First,
I want to
I
ask you a
like
question.
right. Go ahead.
Packers lost.
Mm-hmm.
They got a boom, boom, boom,
Mm-hmm.
lost. Who do you think should take the blame? Should
I
it
would.
be? Let me say.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Give you these options, and then I'll let you go. Coach, Aaron Rodgers, or Kevin King, the cornerback, or all of them combined. And the offensive line. Okay.
Yeah, I would say all of the above and Aaron. I mean, that to me, that was a team failure to me. But I would put the most of the blame on the coach. And the reason why I say that is, well, first I'll just say congratulations, Packers, on you had a great season. Finished the regular season at 12-4, 13-3, something like that. Another good year, matter of fact, and had won 7 games like in a row going into the playoffs, which is why I thought legitimately, not just because it's the hometown team, but in looking at them playing football, they were one of the best teams in the NFL this year. Had a convincing win against the Rams in the playoffs. Rams was a tough team, number one defense in the league, and they ran through them. Game plan played well, defense held up, offense did their thing. And in this past game against Tampa Bay, I thought they were the better team and they had the necessary pregame advantages. One, had the home field advantage. And I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, knowing that home field advantage doesn't necessarily guarantee you a victory, but it puts you in a better spot. If you play well or play up to your capabilities, chances are you're going to win. Particularly us from a cold weather state playing against a team from Florida, the warmest state almost in the nation. Come on, man. That should be an advantage. Number two, had the higher seed, your number one seed, and they're the number 5 seed. Third incentive is they played you in the regular season and we lost to them pretty handily. They whooped us earlier. And I thought that was one of our worst games of the year. And I thought that as an athlete, as a competitor, that the Packers would be wanting to get their lick back to let Tampa Bay know, hey, that was a fluke. We took the week off when we played y'all there. We're serious now. We're going to whoop y'all behind. Number four, you have the Super Bowl on the line. It's no given that you make the playoffs, let alone get to an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl game. And the Packers squandered a tremendous opportunity. Tom Brady, great.
Call it choking.
Yeah, they choked. They choked. Tom Brady, great quarterback. People make the arguments of, he's arguably the greatest of all time. He shot 3 interceptions though, so it wasn't like he was the bomb. His team won. The Packers played terrible. Kevin King, terrible, terrible defense, coupled with terrible positions at the right before the half when the guy Scotty Miller, I think his name was, scored the touchdown. You got 6-8 seconds left. The coaches should put you in a prevent cover 2 defense where everybody's back. You're playing the zone. Hey, the rule is, and this goes back to, this is high school stuff. You know what I'm saying? Half about to be over. Don't let nobody get past you. Don't let them score a touchdown. That's all. That's the whole defensive scheme. The defensive lineman ain't even got to put no pass rush on. Just don't let nobody score a touchdown. And they were in a man-to-man coverage that was recognized by this veteran quarterback who got 6 Super Bowls, and the Packers were burned. So while there is blame to go around throughout the 53-man roster, the coach, one, for not having your players prepared to play. The opening couple of series, after they kicked off the ball, Packers won the toss, they deferred. And that's, usually a strategy. Let the other team get the, thing first, put your defense out there so you get the ball back at the beginning of the second half to change or maintain momentum. That's cool. So the opening couple of plays, man, from the kickoff to Tampa Bay being able to score a touchdown within their first 4 or 5 plays on offense, it was an ominous sign for me personally saying, wait a minute, that was too easy. And it showed to me, it demonstrated to me that the Packers didn't have the fire. They didn't seem like they were ready to play. And being ready to play, your coach got something to do with that, number one. Number two, if there are some things going on in the game that need to be adjusted, the coach is responsible for that. Number three, if there are some schemes that y'all doing, like that single man coverage that you guys were in, and they score right before the half, that's coaching. Now, the defensive coordinator, I believe, has recently been fired and let go, due in large part to that. But the coach should have saw some things and overrode him. Hey, we ain't put tank. We ain't going to that scheme. It's about to be halftime, man. Go to he's supposed to pull rank on those. That's coaching. That's the buck stops with me. I'm the final authority. This is what we're doing. And they didn't do that. So I think, to me, the lion's share of the blame goes to the coach. They also had, late in the game, y'all played, kind of spotty, a little bit like crap in most parts, but you were still being competitive. Zaire Alexander got 2 late interceptions in the fourth quarter. Packers, after being down 28-10, had closed the gap to 5. It was 31-26. Still being in a position to win. You only got 2 minutes left. It's getting kind of tight, but you got a 4th and goal and you don't go for it. You got the likely MVP of the season, and he has won some games at the last minute before. When you are playing to win, it's like, I got to go down with my soldiers. If you beat me up, just know you're going to have a buzz and you might win, Joker, but we fighting though. You're going to be walking around limping because I'm going out fighting. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's if you whoop me. I don't think you can whoop me. But if you do, you going to get fired on sometimes too, because I got some fight in me. So what they didn't have fight. It's 4th and goal, man. We're at home. We have the Super Bowl on the line. And this is man up. He's supposed to call a time. I say, look, man, look every man in the eye, grab him by the face mask. Look here. I need you to score, touch every. Right. That has to come. That's coaching. He didn't do none of that. He kicked a field goal. Man, you got 2 minutes left in there. Ain't no, man, come on. We going for the money right now. We're going for it right now. This ain't, well, man, bump that. It's 4th and goal. We got 8 yards to go to the touchdown. We scoring. Matter of fact, we coming out of this timeout telling them, hey, y'all ain't we finna score, just so you know. They did. And that, to me, is coaching. So that, in a nutshell, man, is my thing. It was too much at stake, and they had too many advantages to not win. And the biggest part of why they didn't win was the attitude was a little bit cavalier, and they had too many tactical errors. And it was a tough loss and disappointing, because I really, really thought it was going to be the Packers and Kansas City in that Super Bowl this year.
I was
quite frankly
thinking about having a Super Bowl party.
Right.
Yes, man. And I'll close it out in this last few. I agree with you with Coach.
Sidebar: Aaron Rodgers shot for over 300 yards, was pretty efficient, so he was all right, but it was the coach. But go ahead.
Coaching, I'll give it to you. A bunch of shit. But the other piece is this, Aaron Rodgers. When you had a 10-yard opening to the end zone, where you could have ran it in yourself, and you threw a ball and missed the player. That ain't coaching. That's you not having a heart, Aaron. That's you not saying, I want to get past this, over this hump. But listen, we'll talk about this next week, because next week we're going to talk about the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
So,
yes,
and we need to talk about where these Bucks are too. So we'll get that next week. But listen, thanks for hanging with us. We'll see you next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Joy 1340 AM, 98.7 FM. Also on YouTube and Facebook. Until next week.